So here we're looking at all the roles of the president. And the president is known as the chief, and then you fill in all these different words. The president is really a huge job with huge tasks, and we ask an awful lot of our president. So it's rather interesting that a lot of them you'll see just the daily grind of being president, that every day you have to be considering all these different roles. Most presidents, you'll actually watch them age during the time when they're in office. I remember Barack Obama used to be this happy, young, smiling, vibrant guy, and by the time he came out, he had like tons of gray hair, and he was kind of frazzled and angry, and he's since sort of rejuvenated from that. But being president takes a tremendous amount of physical, mental, spiritual ability just to get through it. It's an absolutely demanding task. So we're going to take a look at what it means to be president. So first, the president is the chief executive. I mean, this is probably one of the biggest tasks, and in fact, it's too big for any one person. We've talked about this before. The president has to be in charge of the bureaucracy. And the federal bureaucracy is a huge, multi-layered monster of an organization where you've got thousands and thousands of employees, and then the people who are subcontractors outside of that, and contractors, and so really millions upon millions of people are fulfilling duties and roles that we have asked our government to do. Okay? So the president is responsible for executing all those laws, and that's everything from nuclear energy to foreign relations to environmental concerns to delivering the mail and making sure the forests are managed. I mean, it's just all kinds of things. And you can just throw, housing issues and banking issues and the whole welfare system and Social Security by itself is the biggest bureaucratic organization in the world. And so, yeah, it's a daunting task. So, chief executive, that's the president. The president is chief of state. So, the United States of America, the president represents that, sort of is a reflection back on ourselves. And so the president has to do things like lay the wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier on Veterans Day. They have to go through those motions. They have to turn on the Christmas tree lights on Christmas Day at the White House. They have to represent America to itself. They are a reflection of traditions and values that have built up over time. And so we oftentimes look to our president to be our chief American. They are the representative of our nation state. Okay? So that's an interesting task that the British have actually handed off to their royal family. So their prime minister is responsible for executing the laws, but their queen currently and the royal family is responsible for doing these kind of things, cutting ribbons, waving to the crowd, leading parades, and doing all those kind of things that are the traditional things that are built up in a society. Okay, so in a lot of countries they divide these roles. Here in America, we have put them all on the president. Besides that, one of the big ones the president has to perform with is the military. So they're commander-in-chief. All right, so we have a long-standing tradition of having the military be under the control of civilian authority. So for military people, we have recognized that for them, every problem is a nail and they are a hammer. They will always do what military people do great. They will blow things up. They will break things, and they will do a tremendously good job at that. But we want to have that viewed through the lens of our elected officials responsible to the people, so that the application of force can be done in such a way that the people are wanting that to happen, and the people are responsible for that happening. Okay? So our military is always under the command of the president. Besides that, our president is also the chief diplomat. Okay? And so they represent us to all the countries of the world. Now, I think in 2020, there's something like 196 countries, I want to say, in the world today. And so the president has to juggle the relations with all of those. And so you might say, well, Does that mean the president needs to know about all of them? Yes. And understand how they relate to each other? Yes. And how one little country can cause big problems with one place or another? Yes. That's what the president needs to understand and is advised with a whole department of people on these issues. So currently, late fall 2020, a war broke out between Armenia and Azerbaijan. You know where those are? Well, they're situated right between Russia and Iran and Turkey. So tiny little countries can set off a huge powder keg of problems between NATO member Turkey that has issues, Russia that has issues, Iran that has issues with the West. All three of these countries have issues with the West, and Armenia and Azerbaijan are fighting in between them. And so how does the president deal with that little war that could touch off a much bigger war around it? All right, so those are the kind of things that a chief diplomat has to be aware of and has to know when to give some things to buy allegiance, when to take things away. Like Teddy Roosevelt, speak softly and carry a big stick. How do you reward or punish different countries to get what's best for America? So that's what is put in place for the chief diplomat, okay? So that in itself is a huge undertaking. All right. Add to that over here on the fifth one, we've got the president being the chief policy maker. So Congress passes the laws, but 435 voices in the House of Representatives, 100 voices in the Senate. President, one voice. So it's very easy for the president to become a policy maker, to propose, this is what I want to happen, this and this and that and that. And so Congress, see if you can do what you want with my stuff. Those are my policy agendas that they put forward. And usually the president puts these things forward at the State of the Union address, which is usually in February. The president comes before Congress and gives the State of the Union address, and it's 1 to 2 hours long, and they basically lay out their wishes for what they would like to see happen. And then they hope Congress will work on some of those things. So you can see in the State of the Union address that the president's opening some doors to some possibilities, that these are the laws I would sign, and he's closing other doors like these are the laws I wouldn't sign. So don't waste your time with this because I'm going to veto it. Otherwise, here's the things I'd really want to work with. And so Congress is writing all that down the whole time. They take note of everything said. Okay? So that really works to set the agenda for what laws that Congress is actually going to focus on, the ones they know the president's going to sign if they come across his desk. And then they'll negotiate behind the scenes with the president what that would look like. Okay? Your book says economic manager. Well, if we lived in the Soviet Union or the Third Reich under Hitler, I would say yes, but what does the president do? So the president does not have the power of the purse. That is Congress. Congress can appropriate or pass laws to tax or to spend, and the president can sign them, but the president is not the manager of the economy. I would have to differ with the book on this one, because there's no real policy tools they have except what you might call cheerleading. I really want this to happen. Okay, they don't have the power to do that, except must first go to Congress, and then when they bring it to him, he can sign it, and he can put it on his policy agenda. I really want this to happen, and Congress can be like, yeah, or they can be like, no, we don't really care. Okay, so as far as managing the economy, our presidents get a lot of expectation that they're responsible for some of these things, and most of the time they're really not. Okay, if anything, it would be the laws that are put in place by Congress, you could argue, that would lead to corrupt actions in the private sector that then crash the economy. So you have to go through that sort of step. You could also say the president is not executing the law correctly, and so therefore, because he doesn't do that, the people under him are corrupt or just not doing their job, and then the economy ends up crashing because of illegal activities. So you have to sort of, make those kind of steps happen before you're actually getting to the point where the president is managing the economy. That's really, that's quite a stretch. Okay. They are, however, chief of the party. Because again, they become the focal point. For the news, they become the focus. They become the singular voice. Instead of 100 senators, there's one president. Instead of 435 representatives, there's one president. All right? So the president really becomes the focus of the party. And so whatever party they are, Republican or Democrat currently, they become the leader because they have the power of the presidential pulpit, basically. They can speak how they want about those things, and the news will gravitate towards them. All right? Citizen. So this one is closely linked with state up here. All right? So as far as being our chief citizen, we expect our presidents to inspire us. We expect them to comfort us. We expect them to inform us. So, things like informing you would be things like there's a great, thing coming called COVID and it's sweeping the world and we have to prepare. That would be informative. Comforting could be, hey, there was this massive hurricane that hit, somewhere in our country and all our hearts are saddened because of this and we're looking to see how much aid we can bring to them. So really reflecting of our values back to us and expressing them so that everyone can publicly have those shared feelings. And then, to inspire us, like John Kennedy said, we will go to the moon. That was these inspirational things. Or Ronald Reagan saying, we will defeat the Soviet Union. These are binding things that bring nations together, that unite people in shared experiences, and that they all feel like our president should be that chief citizen, that statesman that stands up and says what we're all feeling and brings it together, and it all coalesces into one good speech or statement, like that. So we expect a tremendous amount of our presidents. We expect them to be amazing managers. We expect them to be amazing citizens, amazing diplomats, amazing military commanders. We expect them to be good with party politics and understand which laws that we should make. And we don't give them any power to run the economy, but we expect them to do that too. So that's why the presidency is one of the most demanding jobs in the world. It is absolutely thrilling for those who wish for that kind of thing. It is absolutely draining physically and mentally. But these are the roles that we expect our president currently to play. Okay? I'll see you in class.